to the next function, and the next function is called a parabola or a quadratic function. Okay, so the first one we did is a linear function. We know a linear function's general form is y equals mx plus c. Okay, a parabola or a quadratic, okay, can you see here it says here, also known as a quadratic function. Okay, and quadratic should actually sound familiar to you because we've done quadratic equations before, right? And quadratic equations, how did we know it's a quadratic equation? It's when the highest exponent of x is 2. Okay, so can you see here? X is being squared. Whereas, if we go back, the highest exponent of a linear function is 1. That kind of gives you a guideline as to what we're working with. Okay, if the highest exponent of a linear function, the x part, is 1, it's telling you we've got one x-intercept. How many x-intercepts can we have with a linear function? Only one. It can only cut the x-intercept once. Do you understand? It can't go and then change direction and come back down. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. So, if we're looking at a quadratic function, if the highest exponent for x is squared, how many x-intercepts do we have? 2. Okay, so this 2 over here is telling me we have 2 x-intercepts. Are you with me? Okay. Now with the linear function, we went through what each variable represented. Okay. We knew that m is your gradient. If the gradient was greater than 0, it's increasing. Less than 0, it's decreasing. To calculate the gradient, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we know the plus c represented our y-intercept. Okay. Right, moving on to a parabola. Y equals ax squared plus q normally. Okay, or plus c. Right, I'll tell you the difference why we can use either or for now. Okay, let's start with our a value. Okay, our a value, if a is greater than 0, meaning a is what? A is positive. Okay? It means we're going to have a smiley face. Okay, can you see it? Okay, we're going to have a smiley face parabola. If a is less than 0, meaning it's negative, okay, we are going to have a frowny face or a sad face parabola. Okay. Okay, so you mustn't confuse now. With m is got to do with the straight line. M tells us if it's increasing or decreasing. The a in a parabola tells us if it's a happy face or a sad face. Okay. Right. Then we have plus c. Okay, or plus q. Okay, in grade 10. The reason why we like to keep it as a plus c is because it represents the same thing as a linear function. Okay? That plus c still represents my y-intercept. Okay, but now you've got to listen carefully. Obviously, if a quadratic's got 2 x-intercepts, the graph is going to go and it's going to have to change direction. It's going to have to cut the x-intercept again. The x-axis, sorry. Okay? Meaning, we're going to have a turning point in a parabola. Somewhere in my graph, it's going to have to turn so I can go and cut the x-axis again so we can have 2 x-intercepts. Okay. In grade 10, your turning point is always going to be your y-intercept. Do you see over here, this point here? Okay, do you see that point is cutting my y-axis, but it is also my turning point. Do you understand? Okay, so let's write that down. Okay, so in grade 10, your y-intercept is your turning point. Okay, it is written here. You see your y-intercept, and then there's an arrow down here saying that it is your turning point. Okay, now we're going to be doing a couple of functions, but the process remains the same for all of them. We did a linear function, we did sketching, and we did finding the equation. Right? For parabola, we're going to do sketching, and we're going to do finding the equation. Okay. Right, let's move on to sketching. Okay, so the first one we're going to need to sketch, please just fix this over here. This needs to be a square because at the moment this is a linear. Can you see? Okay, so quickly go put that square in here for me. Okay, and like we did exactly for the linear graph, we're going to first analyze our equation. Okay, now you're going to have to know that this is a quadratic function. I'm not going to tell you, sketch this quadratic function. You're going to have to know by looking at the equation that they give you, that the exponent of x is 2. Are you with me? Okay, so let's have a look. We can see that my A value over here is positive 4. Now if it's positive 4, it's telling me it's greater than 0. My A value, okay, so here we've got y equals ax squared plus c. My A value is positive 4. And if my A value is greater than 0, it's telling me we're going to have a smiley face parabola. Okay, so we know it's going to be a positive smiley face. Okay, let's move on to what other pieces of information do they give us? Okay, they tell us that our C value is, okay, negative 16. So, we don't even need to go and find an intercept, a y-intercept, because they give it to us from our equation. Just like they did in the linear. Do you understand? So we don't need to go and find a y-intercept by making x equals to 0. Okay? But this negative 16 is also my what? My turning point. Your y-intercept is your turning point in grade 10. Okay, do you understand? Right. Say, okay, to sketch we need 2 coordinates. We need an x-intercept and we need a y-intercept. The y-intercept is already given. It is negative 16. Okay, so all we need to do is we need to go and find our x-intercept. So here on the paper, do you see that they give us a little calculation for the y-intercept? Okay, but is that little calculation necessary? No, because they already give us the y-intercept from the equation. But you see, if we're looking for the y-intercept, we do make x equals to 0. Okay, and we still get negative 16. Do you understand? Okay, so if we had to then write that as a coordinate, we substituted in 0 for x, and 0's friend was negative 16. Okay, do you understand? Right, so the y-intercept is given. X-intercept, we're going to go make y is equals to 0. Okay, so we're going to go make y equals to 0. So wherever there's a y in my equation, I'll go put 0 in there. Okay, are you with me? Okay, now listen to me carefully. There's many alternatives to solving the following equation. Okay, the first way is by dividing both sides by 4. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have to divide both terms on the right hand side by 4. You can't just divide this by 4. Okay? Do you see how the coefficient of x squared becomes 1 and 16 becomes 4? Okay, are you with me? Can you see how we are all the way back to factorization? Okay? So this, grade 10s, is difference of two squares. Okay? And now remember, what did we say about a quadratic? How many x-intercepts does a quadratic have? 2. And with a quadratic, when you're solving, how many solutions do you get for x always? 2. You see? Okay, so with dots, x and x, one gets a plus, one gets a minus. The square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 gives me 4. Okay? You go make the first bracket equals to 0. And you make the second bracket equals to 0. And we solve for x. Okay, so do you see we get two solutions for x here? 2 and negative 2. So what is my first solution for x? My first x-intercept? The coordinates 2 and 0 and negative 2 and 0. Are you with me? Okay, can I show you an alternative? Okay, look on the right hand side. Okay, so we make y equals to 0, but then we take, hold on, this should have been a 4 here, right? Okay, wait, they're already divided, yeah. Okay, so let's make it, okay, let's just add in here, y is equals to 4x squared minus 16, so what they did is, they took the 16 over, okay, so they made this 0 equals to 4x squared minus 16, okay? You isolate your x by taking 16 over and it becomes a positive 16. Okay, so it's going to be 16 is equals to 4x squared. Are you with me? Okay, and then they divided both sides by 4. Do you see how your 4's cancel? So you're left with x squared is equals to 4. Can you see there? Are you guys okay?
Yes,
right. In order to get x alone, we need to square root both sides. But remember, whenever you square root, your answer is always plus or minus that answer. Are you with me? Do you understand why? Okay. So by square rooting, your x, your squared and your root cancel each other out. You have x alone and the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. Again, you see we have two solutions for x. Positive 2 and negative 2. Are you with me? Right, so do we have all we need to sketch? In quadratic, you are always going to have to factorize somewhere along the line. Yes. Okay, so parabola quadratic is factorization. Yes. Right, so we've got all we need. We've got both x-intercepts and we've got our y-intercept. Are you with me? Okay, so here's how the graph is going to look. Our first point is positive 2 and 0. Our second x-intercept is negative 2 and 0. And our y-intercept slash turning point is 0 and negative 16. Okay, so listen to me carefully. Okay, so we know it's a smiley face parabola. So all you're going to do is, you'll take your pen without a ruler. The only one you'll use a ruler for is a linear. Okay, and please don't go draw me like squiggly lines. A ruler? Yes, use your pen. Don't use a pencil because then so now there's a mistake. So use a pencil to start. Then go over it with a pen because then if there's a mistake, then you can erase it and fix it. You understand? Okay, so you'll take your pen and all you'll do is you'll just link or join or connect, whatever you want to use. Okay, and then you'll obviously go and label. Mention something that's very important. Listen to you now. Is it always going to be our x-intercept? Is it always going to be a negative 2 and a positive 2? Or a negative 3 and a positive 3? Okay, in grade 10, yes. Okay, so do you agree there's some sort of axis of symmetry here? Okay, you know what axis of symmetry is? Okay, axis of symmetry is when you fold something over on that line, it will fit exactly as it should. So, do you agree, in relation to my y-axis, which sits here, I move the same units to the right than I do to the left. So what is my y-axis? My y-axis is my axis of symmetry. Because if I had to fold this graph on my y-axis, it's going to fit perfectly as it should. Are you with me? Okay, looking at example 2. Again, we need to sketch. G of x is equals to negative x squared plus 5. Let's interpret our equation. Okay? What are they telling us here? What do we know about our equation? Our a value is negative 1. It's a sad face. Are you with me? A is less than 0, which means we're going to have a sad face parabola. It's going to be sad. Okay? Right? We can also see that our C value is positive 5. Right. If our C value is positive 5, what do we know about this positive 5? What is that positive 5 telling me? This is our y-intercept along with our turning point. So as a coordinate, this is going to be 0 and 5. Okay. Right, so can you see here it tells us, so we don't even need to go and find a y-intercept because they give it to us. The only thing we need to go and find is our x-intercept. Okay. So to find our x-intercept, we make y equals to 0. Okay, so here's where y is equals to 0. You guys okay? Yes. Right, so what I'm going to do is, do you see this cannot be factorized? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this negative x squared over and I'm going to make it positive. In order to get x on its own, what do? I square root both sides. And when I square root both sides, your answer is always plus or minus. Okay, but now you're going to say to me, ma'am, how in the world am I going to know where to plot square root 5 on my x-axis? All you're going to do is you'll put square root 5 into your calculator. We'll push S to D, and it's going to give us approximately 2.24. Approximately. Are you with me? Okay, so my first x-intercept is positive square root 5 and 0, and negative square root 5 and 0. We know that my y-intercept is at 0 and 5. So let's go plot that one first. Okay, so at my origin, my y-intercept is 0, and we move our pen up to 5. Okay, so there it is there. That point's going to be 0 and 5. Right, so this is approximately 2.24, and this is approximately negative 2.24. Okay, sorry. Are you with me? Okay, so from 0, x is going to be 2.24. So you'll literally, it doesn't have to be exactly 2.24. So if on your blocks you label 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll just go to 2 and you'll go a little bit past 2. Are you with me? And here you'll go to negative 2 and a little bit past negative 2 to get 2.2. Do you understand? Okay, you'll label this point square root 5 and 0, and you'll label this side negative square root 5 and 0. What else do we need to label, grade 10s? We need to label the graph, and the graph is g of x. If you just write g, it's also not a problem. Okay, you guys fine? Right, can you see what I literally just explained to you? The equation of the axis of symmetry. I told you now the axis of symmetry is always going to be your y-axis. Because the amount of spaces we go to the right is going to be the exact same spaces we're going to move to the left, just on the negative side. Okay, you with me? So if I had to now ask a question in your test, give me the equation. Now, what is an equation? Something with the equal, something on the left, something on the right. Are you with me? So you can't just say to me, the equation of the axis of symmetry is the y-axis, because that's not an equation. What did I teach you right at the beginning? The y-axis is also known as what? The x equals 0 line, because any point on your y-axis, the x value is going to be 0. So, what is my equation of the axis of symmetry? That's it. So look, it's going to be, so always in grade 10, in the parabola, it's going to be the y-axis. And the y-axis, that axis of symmetry, which is your y-axis, okay, is your x is equals to 0 line. I showed you in the beginning. This is your x-axis. This is your y-axis. On your y-axis, any point that lies on this line, grade 10s, any point, does it have an x value? Okay, that's why we call it the x equals 0 line. Do you understand? And any point that sits on your x-axis, yeah, does it have a y value? So this will be the y equals 0 line. So, in grade 10, what is your equation of the axis of symmetry for parabola? Always. X equals to 0.